Welcome to Deep Impact Investing with Kimberly Griego-Kyle from Horizon Sustainable Financial Services. In this podcast, we talk about sustainable investing and how your portfolio reflects your values. Do your investments seek accountability from corporations that govern more and more of our society and even the lives we lead? Listen in as we explore the question, are you investing like you give a damn?
Hello and welcome to Deep Impact Investing with Kimberly Griego-Kyle from Horizon Sustainable Financial Services. Good afternoon, Kim. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I am excited again. I mean, this is another podcast that you have special guests on, and I'm really excited to get to meet them.
Oh, yes. We're going to have some more fun, and I'm going to introduce the other two wonderful folks who have joined Horizons.
All right. Who are they?
Who are they? Who aren't they? These are some great folks. And these are the other two new advisors who joined us last month. Well, almost 2 months ago now.
Wow.
So we have Alan Gammel, who is in Tacoma, Washington. And we have Patricia Hathaway in Eugene, Oregon. So they are representing the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
And that's who we have, yeah.
Kim, you didn't tell me that.
What do you mean?
Alan, are you there?
I'm still here.
How's my mountain?
Which is your
It is out today.
Is it out today?
Yeah, believe it or not. It's been very cloudy the last couple of weeks, but it's out today.
She's out today. Well, I grew up in Puyallup, Alan, since I said it correctly,
What?
you know that's right.
Yeah, I know you must be from around here.
That's right. Tish, not to leave you out of the
this.
conversation, thank you for being here as well.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm excited to be here.
We don't really call her Patricia. We call her Tish.
That is true.
Yeah.
I think I said Tish, didn't I?
You did, yeah.
Oh, good.
Because I told
All
you
right.
that beforehand. Yeah, it's Patricia Hathaway, but we call her Tish.
See, I've got things in common with both people. My sister's name is Patricia.
Oh, wow. What
Oh,
does
my
she go by?
goodness.
Tricia. She goes by Tricia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. There's some really great mountains in Oregon as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up in Oregon.
That's right.
Yeah. We are all Pacific Northwest folks.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. I love my Oregon home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great. Yeah.
I have
So
mad
let's-
love for Oregon.
Yeah, I know. I miss it. I love the fall in Oregon
Ugh,
because of
yeah.
the colors. I mean, Washington's going to be the same way, but the colors of the changing trees are so amazing. It's not that the colors aren't amazing here in New Mexico, but we mostly have aspens and it's yellow.
Mm.
It's amazing yellow, but in Oregon you have everything. Orange, red, all the variations of that, and yellow. And I just love that. Yeah. So I bet it's beautiful right now.
It is. We're peaking
is.
right now.
Up here too.
All right. So the purpose of this today is to compete with Brianna and Paul. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We just want to get to know you. I want my listening audience to know about our firm and about the folks here and who they are and how they got to be advisors in the social impact investing world. And that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to ask you some of the same questions and some different questions that Johan and I both shared when we first started the podcast and that Brianna and Paul shared. And you can just tell the listening audience all about yourself. But I get to pick the questions, not you. That's how this
Okay.
works. So when we did it, Eric got to pick the questions, but now I'm in charge. So I
You're
get
the
to
boss.
pick the questions.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and Eric can jump in if he has interesting things to share or ask you.
Now I gotta figure out some really tough ones. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll start
you
writing them down.
Yeah, you can start writing them down. So let's start with the businessy things, and then we'll delve into your personal life. Not too personal, but we'll delve into the personal life later. So, Alan, let's start with you. I want to know why you decided to get into financial services and social impact investing in particular. What drew you to it?
Well, how did I get into financial services? Really, it was kind of a mistake. When I moved to Seattle, I applied for a lot of jobs through an agency, and one of the first jobs I applied for was Acme Financial in downtown
Really?
Seattle,
Acme?
and Acme, that was the
Was
name.
Wile E. Coyote there?
Yes,
Seriously.
it's amazing. It really is a company called Acme Financial. And I took their little aptitude test, and they called me back a couple days later and said, we suggest you find some other career.
No,
It indicates that you would not be very good at this. And so about a week later, they sent me to another small loan company called Credit Thrift. And I apparently passed their test because they hired me. The postscript to that is that when I left Credit Thrift a few years later, my boss told me that I was the only, they almost didn't hire me because on the aptitude test, I matched every single point. And they had never had anybody match every single point. And they thought maybe I was faking it.
Wow.
Which I'd have to be pretty good since I really don't study aptitude tests very much. So I ended up in financial services and doing small loans, and then I got into banking. And while I was at Credit Thrift, though, I discovered that I had a talent for securities. I had to pass a securities test for some bonds that we were selling, Credit Thrift notes. And even though I majored in sociology, I loved the course, and I passed it the first time.
Oh, so you're
whereas
a big
the
geek.
other guy who was a business major failed the test the first time.
I love
So,
it.
so well, you need a liberal arts background. That's your problem.
Yeah.
And so I ended up liking the securities part. And even though I went to work in a bank later on, I ended up selling some insurance and mutual funds and getting Series 6 licensed. And to skip way ahead, I got married, and my wife needed somebody who had a Series 7 license because
did
one of
she
her
need that?
clients,
Oh, she was in the
one of her
financial
clients,
services.
she just did mutual funds. And so we had one client who had some stocks. So I volunteered to go get a Series 7. So I had a Series 7 for a while. And then when I left there, I started to work for an RIA, and I did the Series 66 test.
So you got all the licenses.
So
But
I've
what
had
drew you
several
to
licenses.
social investing?
To be honest, it was probably my sister. She said, I want to invest my money socially responsibly. And I looked around and did a little research back in the early 80s, 83, 82. And I said, I think this socially responsible stuff is not really very meaningful. I said, I think you ought to just invest your money and spend it socially responsibly.
Wow. Really? You were one of those guys.
Yeah. I mean, I said the definition of socially responsible is big enough to drive a tank through. You can have a socially responsible fund that invests in defense, and you can have socially responsible that invests in nuclear energy. And I said, I don't see the socially responsible part very much. But by 1992, I ran into First Affirmative, and I was very impressed with that. And eventually, about 10 years after that, I talked my RIA into getting a selling agreement with First Affirmative so that I could do socially responsible investing with my clients.
That's when it was really.
And that was in the 2000. That was 2004, 2005, something like that.
So I love this story because you were one of those skeptics. Just invest in the ugly things and donate the difference. And now you're a true believer.
And now I just work with people who are interested in, I guess I always say they're aligning their investments with their values.
That's great.
And
So let's ask the same question of Tish. How did you get into financial services, and why sustainable impact investing?
Well, so I come from a science background. I got my degree in chemistry at the University of California.
Why am I
And
not surprised that you are a chemist?
why?
Because you are so scientific and detail oriented.
Oh, well, in some things, not all, but anyway. And then I got married. My husband was starting medical school and becoming a doctor. And we ended up having 3 children. And I was a stay-at-home mom for many years. And then as they started moving back into school, I wanted to go back and do something satisfying. So I was here in Eugene then, and I went back to the university and thought of getting a master's in chemistry. And so much had changed in the theories and stuff in that time. I quickly realized that that probably wasn't the direction I was going in. And this was about 2000, 1999, right before the big bubble burst. Mm-hmm. And I started trying out different things. I kind of played around with architecture. I just kind of decided to do a whole bunch of different stuff, and kind of came to my 2 loves, which were being a travel agent, because I love to travel, or working in finance. And I had a friend who was a financial planner, and he said to me, don't go into travel because you won't make any money. And so I ended up going in. The financial services was what just stuck. It was like I threw a bunch of stuff at the wall, and that was the one I never turned around. I just kept going forward. And before I ever started working, I got my CFP designation. So I studied that and did that on my own. And then I enrolled myself in the local chapter of the Financial Planning Association. And in a very short time, everybody who was looking for a job knew about me. And so I went around and talked to different people. And then I ended up in Lori McLean's office, who was the SRI lady in Eugene, Oregon. And I didn't even really know what SRI was, but I ended up working with her for a number of years and realized that this was my peeps. And it just aligned with who I had been my whole life and the value-oriented aspect of it. And I've been doing it ever since. And that's my story.
That's great. And Lori, we always called in the first affirmative circles the queen.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I think
Lori
she demanded it.
amazing. Yes, she probably did demand it. Yeah. She was amazing. Yeah. So let's talk about your community work and how that fits into your practice. Because I think for a lot of us, what we do in our communities supports our social beliefs. And Tish, why don't you tell us a little bit about the things that you do in and around your community?
Well, the major thing I do is that I love the Pacific Northwest, and I love our forests. And so I call myself the forest girl. And so I've been working with local nonprofits to try to preserve our forest. I don't know, for listeners who have been to Oregon, you've probably noticed there's a lot of clear cutting and that goes on our mountains and our land. And I think and science supports that this is not the best way to be managing our forests. So I work with nonprofits. I do field checks where we go up into forests, and I go with a whole bunch of young people who inspire me and give me hope for our future. And we take an area that's out for clear cut, either by BLM or the Forest Service, and we go and try to find reasons why it shouldn't be cut. And so that's what I've been doing for probably the last, 4 or 5 years. It's a lot of fun. It's grueling at times, and sometimes it's frustrating, but that's been really my main thing. Before that, and I worked with City Club and, for civic dialogue in the community and education on issues that are important here. So I would say those are my main things at this point.
Yeah, that's really important work. I know when I was growing up in Oregon, and I would drive from the Willamette Valley over the mountains to the coast, the clear cutting was shocking
Yes.
to see.
Yeah.
So that's really important work, and thank you for doing
It was
that.
very bad then, and then it got better, and now it's getting very bad again. So you'd still be shocked.
That's probably, yeah. Alan, tell us what kind of things you do in and around your community.
I guess mine has focused mostly on church, and another group
Great.
that I've been a member of for a long time called the Institute of Cultural Affairs, and it has more to do with social justice. Another
Wonderful.
part of my career is facilitation, and I've helped a couple of churches I belong to do long range planning and strategic planning, and I've always enjoyed helping people figure out what they want to do and how they can kind of take responsibility for their own future. I've been affiliated with the Institute of Cultural Affairs since about 1975, and I served on the board for 6 years up until about 2015. And currently, they have an archives project that they've actually renamed to be the Social Research Center. And what we're doing is trying to make the work of the Institute of Cultural Affairs more available to people who are involved in social justice work. And so that's what I've been working on. I think, to be honest, the last 5 years, I really didn't do that much in church and stuff because I was taking care of my wife. She was fairly ill, and I pulled back from quite a few things for the last 4 or 5 years.
Family is the most important.
Yeah, and I don't regret that. And she actually passed away back in last December, and so I'm kind of getting re-involved with the church and with some other things with ICA. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that in the next year or two.
Well,
I've been a member of Rotary.
Is coming up,
I've been a member of Rotary before, and the Association for Quality and Participation. I've been involved in a lot of different things, but
well, community involvement is probably very helpful, I think, in terms of the grief process. So, yeah, that will probably be helpful. Great. So, Alan, I'm going to continue with you just a little bit, and one more sort of businessy type question, and then we'll talk more about personal fun things. If you could tell us just one thing in terms of client education, what is one client educational thing that you like to do with your clients? Because I personally think client education is really important, but what do you like to do for or with your clients?
Well, I think one thing is just everybody seems to need me to explain to them diversification and why that is important. And so I like to talk to people about, why we have invested their portfolio the way we have and how we manage risk through diversification. This may not sound like financial education, but the other thing I think I try to teach people is patience. My clients are generally in this for the long term, but this last couple of years has really tested some people's willingness to put up with all the volatility. So I found myself I found myself talking a lot about being patient, and it works most of the time because they are in it for the long term. I don't have a lot of clients who are needing to withdraw money right now. So I think the biggest question people have for me anyway is, why are we investing this way, and what are the what's SRI about this, and so
that's great. Maybe you could write a little white paper for us to put on our blog for Horizons about patience.
We'll work on it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Just be patient.
That'd be great. Let's do that. Yeah. So, Tish, I'm gonna ask the same question of you, because I know both you and Alan do a lot of financial planning, which is educational in nature. So what do you like to do or share with your clients in terms of educational work?
I work mostly with women, and a lot of women who might be feeling vulnerable and need someone to take them through processes. So I'd say probably a lot of what I do is helping people through tasks that are long and involved and that require lots of steps. So I think one of the things that I get most satisfaction is breaking these tasks down and getting people to not be so worried about the outcome or the end product, but getting through it piece by piece without anxiety. Because so many of my clients come in anxious about the things that they have to deal with money-wise. So I'd say probably the thing that I enjoy most is helping people get to a place of peace on something and being able to break it down into pieces that are manageable and that they can now accomplish and do. And I think that's always a really satisfying thing.
Alan, who is your hero?
Yeah,
I mean,
besides,
besides me,
it's a tough.
who's your hero?
I've thought of this question, really, and I would have to say my mother. The more I learn, or the older I get, the more I admire my mother. My father died when I was 7, so she had 3 kids under the age of 7. She didn't drive when my father died. She had been a teacher, but she was now a housewife. And he died in 1959. She ended up going back to school, getting a degree in master's in librarianship. And she was a librarian in an alternative school for many years and actually retired as a teacher. She was involved in getting her church to be the Presbyterians called it, I believe, a more light church, where they accepted gays and lesbians into the congregation. It was a 2-year process of holding meetings and studies, and when they finally voted, they voted to do it. And I was always very proud of her for that.
What
Pardon?
year was that? What year was that?
That would have been, when did she retired? 65, 88, somewhere in the 90s. She was always involved in, after I left home anyway, she was involved with, I'm not sure what they called it exactly, but it was kind of an underground railroad thing for people from Central America. Remember Nicaragua and all those people trying to flee, and she would tell me about it, and she said, I know it's not legal, but I looked at it and I said, in the long course of history, who's been right more often, the church or the government? And I decided the church would have been right more often, so I didn't worry about breaking the law. So for those reasons and many more, I really have admired her, and so she's my hero.
Alan, that is beautiful. Yes. Oh my gosh, your mother is my hero too. Tish, I'm going to ask you a different question.
Okay.
Who is your favorite person in history?
Well, I wouldn't say I have a favorite person, but I have read the biography of Marie Curie, and I do have a degree in chemistry. So she is a person that I found to be really interesting. She lived her passion, and she was actually recognized for it in her lifetime. And her husband worked with her, so I find that very unusual that he didn't get all the credit. She even got a Nobel Prize, I think 2. So it's kind of lived on her own terms, was able to get recognition for it. But I guess the bummer is she died from all the radiation that she absorbed in her lifetime. Mm-hmm. But I find her to be a pretty compelling personality.
Tell us one thing that most people don't
I was hoping you would
about
not ask me that.
We always ask that question.
Well, if they don't know, doesn't that mean that we don't want to tell?
Yep, answer the question.
That's right, Eric. Answer the question.
You will comply.
That's right.
I can answer
Alan,
it.
Alan, you go first.
I think most people don't know that I lived in Germany for 2 years after I got out of college. and I learned to speak German very fluently.
Where in Germany?
Well, I lived for, most of the year and a half of that, I lived in West Berlin. And back when it was West Berlin, I would take the S-Bahn, which is underground subway, and part of it ran through East Germany. And the stops in East Germany were all closed and blocked off, but they had armed guards at every one. So as you were going from one place to another, if you went through East Berlin, you would see these armed guards at all the closed stops.
Yeah. Okay.
I really
Tish?
don't have. That was the one I really didn't have an
Give it
answer
up.
to. I'm not kidding.
Oh, well, you got something.
Okay, something boring.
people-
It's boring.
most
I'm
people
not going
don't
to tell
know
you the
that.
stuff that you want to hear. I can tell you that.
Wow.
Whoa, so there is something.
There's some rebellion
Hey,
there.
I grew up in the 70s in California.
something
I got lots to
interesting.
tell. But
Okay, we'll schedule a new podcast.
Okay, give us
just for
something
this.
good.
can I answer
Yes,
who my
yeah,
hero
right.
is?
Sure. Why not?
Okay, I'll
Come
tell you.
on.
It's really, really boring.
Something-
When
yeah.
I get really frustrated and bored, or I just feel like I can't go on, I do a 1,000-piece puzzle. I told you, it's
Oh,
boring.
wow.
That is boring. Okay, who's your hero?
My hero, actually, I don't have a hero. I have 3 heroes. So, but they go together. My hero, like Alan, used to be my mom because she was amazing,
Okay.
and she died really young, or when I was really young, and so I don't really have that relationship with her as an adult. But recently, my children are my heroes, and the youth of right now going on, they're all my heroes, really. But my children came up in the recession, and now they're going through this. And I'm inspired every day by them. They're amazing. They're passionate. They're involved. They're activists. And I cannot even believe that they're my children and that I've brought into the world such amazing people. And I'm so proud of them. So those are my heroes.
And what was the most fun thing you
I'll
did
talk
in the
to you
70s?
when I get down to Santa Fe and we have that drink, Kim, which apparently I owe you now too.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being on here and sharing a bit of your life. But I'm sure Eric has a question, right?
So Tish, tell us
You got
about the
something.
70s. I'm just kidding. All right. We'll let you off the hook, I suppose. But one question I'd like to ask both of you.
Okay, I'll tell you something.
All right.
If you really want to know something most people don't know about me, when my husband and I go down to the Caribbean in
Yes.
St. Martin, we always spend a day at the nude beach. How's that?
There you go.
There you
All
go.
right. See?
We didn't know there was a nude beach down there.
Excellent.
Now we know.
It's one of the biggest in the whole world.
I didn't either.
See? Well, there you go. All right.
It's
Okay.
quite the community.
I like it.
Trust me. I've seen things on that beach I wish I never saw.
All right. Well, for those that are listening, you got a chance to get to know both Alan and Tish a little bit on this podcast. If they have questions, if the listening audience has questions for them, besides, what happened back in the 70s, other questions, maybe on investing and just to get them know them more, how do they get a hold of Alan or Tish, Kim?
Well, my phone number is 253-376-3983.
And email is alan@horizonssfs.com. And
Correct.
Tish, how do they get a hold of you?
My phone number is 541-345-4400. And my email is patricia@hathawayfinancialservices.com.
Great.
All right. Kim, thank you so much for bringing them on. They were fantastic guests, and I appreciate the time again, as usual.
Yeah, and it's always so good to be with you. And I am very proud of the team that we've built. And as I said before, it's really a family, and we're very happy to have this great family.
Absolutely. And the last thank you, of course, goes to you, the listening audience. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Deep Impact Investing Podcast with Kimberly Griego Kyle. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Kim comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. Again, thanks for listening today. For everyone at Horizon Sustainable Financial Services, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Deep Impact Investing Podcast, the sustainable, responsible impact investing podcast that shows you how to get your voice heard. It's time to start investing like you give a damn. To ask a question that we can answer on an upcoming podcast, email us at info@horizonssfs.com or join the conversation on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Horizons Sustainable Financial Services, or give us a call at 505-982-9661. Don't forget to click the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes become available. The companies we may speak about during our podcast are not recommendations for investment only. You and your financial advisor can determine what the right investments are for you and your situation. Horizon Sustainable Financial Services is a registered investment advisor, registered with the state of New Mexico, and other jurisdictions were registered or exempted. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the host and or guest, and do not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Horizon Sustainable Financial Services. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.